and welcome everybody to the premiere of Tech It or Leave It, powered by Cognizant Softvision and Techonomy. In this game, we will have 4 rounds of debate and discussion on all things tech with 3 leading tech influencers. I'm Kendall from Techonomy, and I'm your host, and these are your contestants. Contestant number 1, with over 2 decades working for PC Mag, he's reviewed over 1,100 smartphones, tablets, and other gadgets. Ladies and gentlemen, Sasha Segan. Contestant number 2, he's been a tech journalist for over 30 years, and he's the founder and editor-in-chief at Techonomy, David Kirkpatrick. And our third contestant, with more than 25 years of tech leadership experience, he is now the head of the Engineering Guild and a distinguished architect with Cognizant Softvision. Please welcome Dustin Kangas. All right, everybody, let's begin. This is Tech It or Leave It. So for round 1, our contestants will answer some open-ended questions. Here's your question. A lot has been made about the next generation of online experiences. Web3, Metaverse, AR and VR, gaming, blockchain, crypto, and beyond. Where do you see our future online experiences heading? Sasha, why don't you start us off?
Well, thanks, Kendall. You give me a real scam sandwich there with Web3 and crypto on the outside, these frothy financialized things which are basically just get-rich-quick schemes, which will not change our world in any positive way. But in the middle, there is some meat, and I think that's really around what we talk about with the Metaverse, AR, VR, MR, XR, and the verification tools on the blockchain could change how we live, if not within the next 5 years, definitely within the next 10.
Very good point. David.
Well, I think many people underestimate the degree to which we have become totally habituated to smartphones, apps, and how well they really do serve our needs for now. And so many of the proponents of those trends, financialized or not, don't really credit the total sort of solidification of our current experience digitally. And I don't think it's going to change that quickly. I think many of those things have potential for the long term, but we don't need most of them now.
And Dustin.
I think we're heading to war with this whole thing. All of this technology has gone through microtransactions right now. We're heading in a macro level, and we're not going to see real change coming out until we get consolidation, verification, regulation in these marketplaces so that we can have better experiences for everybody involved. Right now, it's just at its infancy.
All excellent points. Another open-ended question. With all the advances technology affords society, there is a growing movement that suggests that it is fundamentally reshaping the human experience in ways that are not always positive. Threats to democracy, hate speech, disinformation, distraction, and addiction. These are just some of the pernicious possibilities. Where do you stand on whether technology can cause societal harm? Let's start with you, Sasha.
I think the social media transformation absolutely has caused societal harm. But what we need, unfortunately, is for the old guys like us on this panel to step aside, and for young people who really grew up with these technologies and understand them in a visceral way that less allows them to be misled by them, like I'm seeing with teenagers today who I have a lot of hope in. Once that generation starts to take the lead, I think that is going to improve things.
That's a positive spin. I hope so. And David, to you.
Well, I wrote a book about Facebook that came out more than a decade ago, so I've been cursed to follow that company closely, and I've been increasingly distressed by its impact on society with every passing year. I'm absolutely convinced that the global decline in democracy we're seeing is largely a function of the disinformation that is so readily spread on social media and government leaders and political parties abusing that. So I think technology has provably harmed society, and I don't think we really have the systems yet. Maybe AI could help in the long run to remediate that. I'm not nearly as optimistic as Sasha that we can just get better at it as educated humans.
slightly more concerning angle. All right, Dustin.
And, I'm with David on this one a lot, because when you look at the societal harm, it's not just in our society, it's our physical structures that are being changed because of social media. We all have a need to get our dopamine intake from somewhere. And so we're getting it from social media rather than getting it from other environments that have positive influence on what we're actually trying to do and trying to achieve. And so I can see the continued decline, the misinformation that's coming through. And AI, if it's not done correctly, is simply going to increase that amount of misinformation because it's going to be representative of the bias that's already going to be out there.
I mean, I don't want to be too much of an optimist here, because I do think that we could live long enough to break the world irreparably before the kids can fix it.
Yeah, well, that seems to be happening. The real thing depends on the responsibility of the small number of giant companies that control these ecosystems. And for the most part, they have not stepped up to the responsibilities that they face because they prioritize profit.
Or the governments who could regulate those companies don't understand how they work, because those governments are run by people even older than us.
No, with the exception of China, no government in the world really understands tech. And that's a problem, serious problem.
All right, it's been an excellent first round. Sasha really standing out with his own opinions.
Hey.
David and Dustin, great points too. Welcome to round 2, What's the Word? Where our contestants will fill in the blank for a number of statements. So here is our first one. The metaverse will be blank. Sasha.
Expansive. It's going to be everywhere.
And David?
Not much at all. It will virtually be nowhere except for some gamers.
Okay. And Dustin?
Immersive. We're going to see the blending of the digital world and the real world together.
Sounds like you're a little bit of the odd one out there, David.
I guess I am, but c'est la vie.
All right. In the generation ahead, blockchain technology will be used to blank. Dustin?
Everything. Blockchain will give us the way to have visibility into everything that we're doing in the digital world.
Sasha?
Verify. Blockchain technology's best use is to double check and to prove that things are what they say they are.
I like that. David?
I think blockchain will be used in a lot of industrial and commercial applications. In most of the things it's being talked about for, it's overkill. Databases already exist that can do much of the same thing.
All right. If there's one thing the world is sleeping on in the future of tech, it is blank. David?
Oh, the threat to democracy, I'd say. It's we talked about it before, but it is genuine and terrifying.
Agreed. Dustin?
I think it's really what you're sleeping on is just the general benefit that it's going to have and how we're going to clean up the mess that we're in with democracy and everything else.
There are some good sides to it, I don't deny. I'm not a total pessimist.
And Sasha, your thoughts?
India. I think there's a potential for innovation in the Indian technology industry that we haven't seen realized on a global scale, that people aren't aware of. That's going to be an amazing story, especially in the 2030s.
Hard to argue with that, actually.
Yeah, very good points. The growing threat of cybercrime and hacking is blank. Dustin?
Is real. I mean, it's business. That's what it is, and it's going to continue to be there because it is big business.
Sasha?
Consistent. I've been following hacking and cybercrime for the past 20 years, and there's been hacking and cybercrime for the past 20 years. I don't think it's necessarily ramping up massively in a way that changes the game.
And David?
It's terrifying.
Simply put, but solid. All right. By the time the kids of today grow up, social media will be blank. Dustin?
Social media will not exist in the way that we see it at all anymore. By the time the kids grow up, it's either going to be replaced because we see it as too invaluable, or their experience is going to be something completely different than how we even visualize it today.
Sasha?
It'll be over. I agree. It's a creation of the Gen X and millennial generations, and the new generations are going to have their own ways of going about things.
And David?
I don't think we're going to use the word social media for much longer. I don't know what will replace it, but it is a time-bound phenomenon that is of decreasing interest to most people on the planet, I would say.
All right, I'm very curious about what is on the horizon. Another excellent round, a feisty round with really good points. Let's move on to the next. Our third round is the name of the game, Tech It or Leave It. I will say a series of statements, and each contestant will have the chance to buy or sell that statement. Low code, no code will continue to grow and soon dominate software engineering. Dustin, Tech It or Leave It?
Leave it. It's not software engineering.
And David?
I'd say tech it. May not be good for Dustin, but it's probably good for the world.
And Sasha?
Leave it. I was making apps that way in 2013. I don't see that there's been a generational shift in how this is done.
Do you want to expand on your reasoning, David?
Well, I've learned a lot of what I know about it from Cognizant Softvision, I have to say, and I think it's an astonishingly promising development that allows non-engineers to contribute to software, which is controlling the world, and that's got to be positive in my view.
If it creates shadow systems and everything else within the environment, then that's great. But it's not going to be software engineering.
I think ultimately you're going to have software engineers writing the structures that people then manipulate in these object-oriented or low-code situations, which means there's going to be no reduced need for software engineers.
All right. Web3 has the ability to completely overhaul the internet as we know it. David, Tech It or Leave It?
Definitely leave that. I think there are elements that are super interesting in Metaverse and crypto and all that, but the idea it's going to totally redefine the internet in any near term is totally something I would leave.
Sasha?
Leave it. Someone needs to define Web3 before it can define the internet.
Fair. And Dustin?
Leave it. There's some interesting concepts in Web3 that still have to be worked out.
I guess there's some unanimity on that one.
Succinct. I like it. Cryptocurrency is a viable payment platform. It's just ahead of its time. David, Tech It or Leave It?
Definitely leave that one too. I continue to fail to see any kind of massive standard use case for crypto that solves major problems the world has.
Dustin?
Leave it. Cryptocurrency is really just digital commodities, and you can produce as much of that commodity as you want. So it's completely artificial.
And Sasha?
Leave it. Currency should be a reliable store of value backed by some entity, such as the production capacity of a country. Cryptocurrency is a wildly fluctuating speculative instrument that is a financial plaything, not an actual useful store of value.
Yeah, one thing I believe is that a large part of the enthusiasm for crypto comes from a libertarian sentiment that is fundamentally anti-government, anti-institutional, and could be seen as anti-societal. It's really almost anarchic in the impulse behind it, and that scares me.
I couldn't agree more.
And if they even get to the point of really having like solid coin and things like that, that are actually backed by something, when you have government stepping in and making the regulations and creating their own currency in the digital market, it's just going to move everything out from where it is.
And I'd like to point out that those stable coins are not backed with what they say they're backed with.
Oh yeah.
Tether is going to collapse within the next 3 years.
But governments will issue digital currencies for better or for worse, as Dustin said.
At some point in time. And then whatever's there currently today, we're just going to see it being replaced in a similar manner.
Although I'm not sure really what advantage digital national currencies are going to confer in a society where our transactions are almost all digital already.
Very good points. A lot of agreement there. Clean tech has the ability to dramatically reduce carbon emissions. Tech it or leave it, David?
Oh, I would tech it, as I tried to say as often as possible. I am a big proponent of climate tech. I don't think we've got what we need, but it's wonderful to see the enthusiasm around that space and the innovation and all the entrepreneurs and investors that are flocking to solve what is really the world's most fundamental problem.
And Sasha?
Leave it. Unfortunately, there is too much. There's too much weight and too much gravity around the fossil fuel industries, especially here in the U.S. And I would say one of the best things we could do for climate would be to shut down cryptocurrency.
And
That
Dustin?
might not be wrong, but
And I'm going to say leave it. Clean tech is marketed as clean. It's just less dirty. But technology is going to be based off the energy sector. And so we need to be able to have more stable, low-cost energy environments to be able to push tech forward, which we don't have right now. And it's not going to be replaced with what clean tech is as it currently stands.
I would just say if we can't tech clean tech, we are all screwed.
I don't disagree, but I think we may be screwed.
Jeez. That's so
So many
scary.
optimists today. Google AI achieving sentience. Tech it or leave it. Dustin?
Leave it. Any AI that is sentient causes too many problems.
Succinctly put. And David?
I'd leave it. There's a lot of reason to be worried about what AI is going to be capable of, but it is by no means close to sentient yet.
And Sasha?
Leave it. Sentient, whether something's sentient or not sentient, is an academic discussion to be engaged in on university campuses among philosophers. It doesn't really actually affect anything in our day-to-day.
All right. Again, a lot of great points here. Sasha, I'm loving your opinions. Don't know if I'm allowed to favor someone so early on, but that is where we're at. And our final round is a rapid fire round. It is the last chance to impress the host and distinguish themselves. So, question 1. Quantum computing. How much difference will it make? Will it enable companies to do much, much more? Or will it be a cybersecurity nightmare, undoing every form of current encryption? Sasha?
It's great. It's the next leap forward in decision making now that we're reaching the end of Moore's Law. The biggest problem in cybersecurity isn't encryption, it's the humans involved, it's things like phishing. Quantum computing isn't going to be positive or negative for that.
Great. And Dustin?
I'm in agreement. Quantum computing is the next generation of how we're going to be processing the information. It's not going to change how we do things today. It's just going to look a little bit different, be a little bit faster than what we have.
Great. And David?
I'm very high on quantum computing as a way to solve global problems. Combined with AI, I think it's going to be a massive leap forward. The cybersecurity threat that's been much discussed with quantum being able to break encryption is real, but we're probably very shortly going to get to a world where, as always, the arms race of cybersecurity and encryption will just be quantum versus quantum. So quantum is a fantastic development for society.
The biggest problem, the way cyber criminals get into your company is not by breaking your AES 256 with like scrolling matrix lines on their screen. It's about calling someone in the IT department, pretending to be the CMO and getting their password.
Phishing works.
Phishing for it. You know, it's the human element of security that is the majority of the security, not the technical components of it.
All excellent points. Today's world is fraught with gigantic problems. Declining democracy, war, economic uncertainty, pandemics, and climate change. How confident are you that tech will change the world on the macro level by 2030? Dustin.
I'm not that confident that tech's going to change the world by 2030. It's going to continue to change and improve the world moving forward, but we're not going to see the massive leaps that some people predict within the technologies.
David?
I think I'm with Dustin on that. I'm very optimistic about a lot of capabilities that tech's going to bring to the world's problems and addressing them. But as that list suggests, we have so many fundamental problems facing us. Climate, in my opinion, being number one among them, but the decline of democracy a close second. I don't see those being solved in any near term, unfortunately.
And Sasha, any more optimism?
I mean, I don't think everything comes down to tech. I think it comes down to people. I think one of the big reasons for decline of democracy, for instance, is the death of the World War II generation, and that we don't have people who remember how bad fascism was. So we have a lot of people nostalgizing about quasi-fascism. I think that changing people's hearts and minds and getting people to agree on a positive future is much more important than any individual technological change is going to be.
Interesting. That means leadership, which we really don't have at the global or even national level to the degree we need it.
Exactly. It's about people. Ultimately, technology is a tool of people. It isn't going to change things on its own.
You're good, Sasha. I gotta say.
We've heard a lot of great opinions today, and I've loved the back and forth. I think everyone has great reasoning, but I think we have a winner. Contestant number 1, Sasha Segan.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Sasha. The floor is yours. You have 30 seconds to say where the world is going with all of this.
Tech is going to further connect people, and it's going to further enhance people's capabilities. When we talk about things like AR and VR, it's about bringing more information more easily to people, helping them process the information more easily with things like AI and quantum computing, and ultimately bringing people from far away together. Whether or not that's a good or a bad thing often depends on the people. And we need intelligent, cognizant leadership to be able to move that society forward.
Excellent. Love the name drop. This was Tech It or Leave It with Techonomy and Cognizant Softvision. Thank you so much and hope to see you next year. Hello and welcome to Tech It or Leave It. One of our original contestants was unfortunately unable to join on the day of the show, but now we have the chance to sit down with her. Please welcome Charlie Oliver.
Hi.
Charlie launched her first tech startup in 2007 and has been helping professionals to understand and harness the power of advanced disruptive technologies ever since. Now she is the CEO and founder of Tech 2025. She's heard David's, Dustin's, and Sasha's comments, and she has opinions of her own to share. Like any good State of the Union, this Tech It or Leave It show welcomes any rebuttal. So Charlie, I know you wanted to weigh in on the state of AR, the Metaverse, and Web3. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is a lot of fun. And one of the things that we love doing at Tech 2025 is having these conversations about emerging technologies in a way that might be a little, so I definitely heard some feedback from the 3 panelists that resonated with me and also made me want to jump in there and go, what? So let's start with, in terms of AR, VR, I don't know if we want to bundle the metaverse in there, but just the future of sort of, interactive, immersive experiences. I think it's important to realize that we are very early. We are extremely early in this. I agree with Sasha's take that, above all, the 3 of them, I think Sasha's take that the whole glasses thing, it will happen. But I think it's going to go even further than that. I think that we're talking about implants. I know it sounds crazy, implants in our eyes. When we get to the point where we don't even have to think about the hardware, what I'm so surprised that I didn't hear was the whole mixing sort of, biotech or, other types of technology, brain-computer interfaces, BCI, even psychedelics. Believe it or not, psychedelics, I think, are going to have a role in our immersive experience with technology. And I think that's going to have it sort of really pop off and go mainstream, but that's just my take. So, yeah.
That is incredibly interesting. And I wonder if that means I should hold off on getting LASIK just yet.
Yeah, hold up on the LASIK because the next iteration is definitely going to be just put the screen in your eye. As a matter of fact, Sony ran they have a patent, I'm sure all of the companies do, that they took out, I think it was in 2014, to sort of have this tracking device or device implanted in your eyes. I mean, it's early research stage or whatever, but my thing is, that's coming when we get to the point where we're not burdened by the hardware. It will become more mainstream, and that's just AR VR. What I would say about Metaverse, though, I mean, I don't know, maybe you want to just hold up on the Metaverse thing, though, but yeah, I agree with the panel for the most part, but definitely Sasha had a great point regarding the glasses.
I know you are also passionate about the future of social media. I'd asked the group that by the time our kids grow up, or today's kids grow up, social media will be blank. What would you put in that sentence?
That is a great question. And I'm one of the people who, with my company back in 2017, well, that's 2007. I, sort of was helping companies to get on board with the whole social media thing. Lots of fun, exciting times. I agree actually with the entire panel that it will be very, very different. I think everybody on the panel said basically that it's not going to be called social media if it's there. David said that, absolutely right. As a matter of fact, I'm already tired of the term social media. Let's retire that now. And then also we heard that, it may not even exist. I think there's some reality there, but here's what I'm not hearing that I'm going to add to this. The very definition of what it means for us to gather and come together is absolutely going to change. Because of the technology, but also separate from the technology. I think, the reason we even use social media, meaning that we want to sort of amplify and share who we are, what we think, what we want to project onto the world. I think that entire idea is going to be completely upended by all of the different technologies that we have, especially BCI. I'm very aggressive on brain-computer interface technologies. Here's what I mean. Let's say, for example, we're talking about sharing what we know about ourselves, which is what social media is today, sharing what we think we are. Once we begin to have brain-computer interface where the computers and software can talk directly to our brains and vice versa, we'll have insights not just into what we are, what we think we are, what we want to express that's at the front of our brain. We'll be able to start talking from the part of our brain that we're not aware of, our subconscious. Now, that's where the future of social media is. And it won't be called social media, it'll be called something completely different. But we're going to be sharing not what we think we are, what we want to project. We're going to be sharing what AI tells us we really are, or maybe what we intend to be as opposed to what we're doing today. That's my take.
That sounds very wise. So Charlie, do you have any other points that you heard that you want to respond to?
What I will say about that is that it is extremely early. So I do agree with the panel on it. We're way too early. I think the point at which the metaverse, the idea or the potential for it to not just bring us more conveniences or more immersive experiences, because immersive doesn't necessarily equal better. It doesn't necessarily equal more. It just means it's just more immersive. I think the promise of the technology is really going to be its ability to help us to understand how to think beyond ourselves and be beyond ourselves, right? And right now we don't really have that. So to that end, what will facilitate that, I think, is when we can find a way to make the metaverses that we have now talk to each other in a way that's truly open. And I don't see that happening anytime soon. But if and when it does, that's going to be the thing that truly helps us to see beyond what we are.
Thank you so much, Charlie, for sharing your insights. We are so bummed that we couldn't have you on the day of, but grateful that we could sit down today. Great points as always. And that's a wrap on Tech It or Leave It.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.